The title has strong implications. Most men are simps, and even the ones that are perceived as having an alpha status. And the reason for this is because most men, if a woman asked them to be intimate, they would say yes. And that defeats the whole purpose of what makes a man strong and masculine. And even the alpha male, he's saying yes to perhaps multiple women. And then that's the reason the women like that bad boy type, is because he's saying no to other women, but only because he can say yes to, because there's multiple, women he can say no or yes to. So I'm going to go through a list of counter arguments that can be used whenever somebody claims to think that they have the right trajectory, claims to think that it's okay to engage in premarital intimacy, and so on. And basically anything except being a man of principles who has a leadership in his marriage. And when I say marriage, I'm not even talking about a legal marriage, because I don't think that's useful. I'm talking about a life commitment where the woman takes the man's last name, but it's a name change. There's no legal, and that's the first thing that even these alpha males, where whoever, any guy who commits his resources to a woman, but she's going to keep her father's name instead of wanting the man's name and wanting that man to be the masculine leader in her life. Like, if the woman doesn't want that particular man to be a leader, then it would be better to stay alone. And so that's point one, is the last name. If guys are with women and they're only quote unquote girlfriend, that's wimpy. That's not a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. And again, not in the legal regard, but in the spiritual and social capacity. And so that's number one, the last name. Number two is the multiple women and the not wanting virgins. If even an alpha male, if they want a virgin, then it's going to be necessary to promote the virgin culture, where they're treating other women sacredly and not trying to seduce them for premarital intimacy. And they are, they're being loving, they're being in the spirit of love, and treating other women as if they're their men's future wives. And when you do that, like, even the alpha males, quote unquote, will be sharing attractive women in theory, but they're still not virgins. You know what I'm saying? So that's number two, the recognition that you all have to work together to create a culture that allows for virginity, which, by the way, means, and this will be point number three, that all men have to be virgins as well. And there shouldn't be this double standard of, well, men should sleep around and it's congratulatory for a man to seduce a woman, but then when a woman gets seduced and has multiple sex partners, it's frowned upon. That's defeating logic. Okay, and then point number 4, it's critical that a man orient his life around the woman and her vulva. A lot of these alpha males, like Andrew Tate, like Myron Gaines and John Zerka, they're alpha in the sense that they are, they're like, tall guys who are confident and cool and fun to be around, but then why can't they also be, in a loving way towards themselves and their fellow man, and actually operate as if they value the woman's virginity, and also are. So the number one priority, like even if a woman has, had guys who had bigger privates and could satisfy her more, or has or whatever the case may be, it doesn't. The most important thing is worshiping of the vulva, and you got to do it with a woman that you find her vulva attractive. So you need to talk about this, or you need to share pictures before connecting. You know what I'm saying? So this idea of a simp is a person who is, they're making other people more important than themselves, and they're making women's ideas more important. And the trouble with women is they just kind of pick whoever's around them and they follow them. They follow men. They follow, oh, this guy has wealth, or oh, this guy has a nice body, or this guy is funny. And then they just end up following the energies of these different people and then comparing each other. They're saying, oh, this guy is not as funny as the other guy, or oh, he's not as attractive, or all of that. And so it just devolves. But to go beyond that, we're going to have to work together as a team, and we can do that, guys. We can, this is going to be my final point. This is point 6. Men have to respect other men. Because when we care about that, oh, this is, this so-and-so's daughter or so-and-so's sister, then we can see it through that light of respecting the man, as opposed to, because with the woman, it's like your biological urges. And by the way, your urges, you need to transcend them. You do that through masturbating daily and using the proper toys. They have... Doc Johnson has this signature stroker, very effective. Use olive oil with it, and it's very realistic. And you've got to try different varieties of it too. Kind of experiment with that. If you have money. If you don't, there's one, the model Sophie DEE. That's the one I recommend the most. But you gotta have sex with yourself. And this whole fucking no fap nonsense, this whole like, oh, porn is bad, like we can use these as tools, as perhaps lesser evils, in maybe in your opinion, but we can use these as a way to manage our desires and actually enjoy life and not feel like we're trying to rush into, you know, that we need a woman to satisfy ourselves, because we can do it on our own terms, in our own privacy. And so that's how you de-simp. You get to a place where your desires aren't an influential factor, and then all there is left is logic. It's the logic of, hey, does this woman actually... So here's how a woman can get a man. The easiest way. She can just... the way is, she needs to want to mimic him and follow him. Like, if he's a certain religion, she should be talking about and trying to get into that. If, it's like a woman has to follow a man in order for it to feel good, for it to have that true masculine feminine dynamic. That's why the trouble with women not following men is it ends up where nobody's happy, and where she feels like she just needs to, and the woman needs something to do, of course. If they have a job, fine, and then they can have their husband help them manage their money. Part of this has to do with guys actually being legitimate, viable husbands and having financial sense and other knowledges like extra fitness and everything, so the woman would want to go along with that. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and there's some thoughts to throw out there. Like I said, to emphasize Goddess V vulva, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, of course, it's ideal to have a virgin, but even if a woman has, been with other men, as long as she doesn't have any STDs, of course, the guy not having any either. But it's as simple as you make the vulva the center of your life, not breasts, not men's penises. And then, as a man, even if you don't have a penis at all, or as a woman, if you don't even have breasts at all, then it doesn't matter, because it's all about vulva. And that's the path to peace. That's the path to transcending these people just trying to feel like they can feel like they can outsmart nature, but you can't. You can only join her, and she is the mother. She is the vulva. I shouldn't say mother. I mean the feminine energy. It's like, and that's our feminine energy. It's not forgetting, it's not dealing with pets. It's not getting obsessed with the newest stuff out there, gadgetry. It's about the woman's body. Hey, Miss Lady Grace, I don't know. I haven't been in contact with him, because he and I have differing beliefs about the world, and he doesn't worshiping woman's vulva is not, and having a wife isn't something he was interested in. Thank you guys for tuning in, and always shieldheart.org for more new ideas on how to... And here's a thought I want to mention about work, is that it's important to work. The physical labor is good if possible, because it kind of it gets you plugged into. You gotta work a job where you don't feel it's overwhelming. You can just do it, but you don't want it to be too easy. Like, you don't want, and you want to be able to do it. Like, I'll say my example. Like, I do handyman work, and I enjoy it, and so making work like a sport, like a hobby, rather than thinking it should be that actually playing sports or engaging in hobbies should be what you should be doing, or going on vacation. Like, I want to be at work. I'd rather be at work than on vacation, because I build up that energy and I build up that plugging into society, and then I feel like I can eventually get the rewards of redistributing that energy to a woman. And it's so important to not give energy to women that are not your spouse. And of course, I'm not talking about like professional exchanges, like if you bought some clothing a woman made, or if you bought, food that somebody cooked at a restaurant, a woman. I'm not talking. I'm talking about like stuff you don't have to buy, like maybe counseling or just feeling like you want to give women money, like strippers or whatever it may be, because you want to tell the universe that you're willing to save every dollar towards, a real wife. So, and the only way to do that is to actually forcibly and willfully, with your willpower, say, no, what I'm doing is for my wife, and then you'll be able to attract energetically a woman who will like that. And this is the opposite of a simp. A simp is someone who needs more than one woman. Like, if you're a real man, you should be masculine enough to that one vagina and one vulva should be, satisfying enough for you. All right, guys. I'm feeling good about what I've said. Actually, why don't I do a little light work session? So we're gonna imagine. Let's start off with imagining someone you're attracted to. Imagine the light streaming down on them smiling. This has nothing to do with trying to force them to like you. It's more about managing the thoughts in your mind and the images in your mind, and making it something that's about love, and so making something that it's about the joy that you want to have in your mind. So imagine that person smiling that you have some interest in. And by the way, you should be thinking about details, like for example, I was thinking about, well, what type of nipples would I want a woman to have? Think about these different kinds of details. What type of skin tone do you want your spouse to have? What type of, think about these kinds of details. And of course, I think you have a moral obligation, but remember that there's a huge difference between a woman that you would want to only have sex with and a woman that you would want to have kids with. You look at your own body, your genetics as a man or woman, and think, what else would I want my body to look like? Would I want it to be more brown, more lighter skinned, whatever it is, and then you choose a mate according to match up and procreate. And I can appreciate. I'll answer that in a moment, Miss Jane. What am I saying? Well, maybe I'll jump right into that. So, what am I looking for? Well, first of all, I don't use the term partner or girlfriend or significant other, because to me those terms are ambiguous. Instead, I use the term wife, or maybe you could call it spiritual wife, because the problem with getting legally married is it gives the woman power. And this is going to sound strange, because it's going to sound like I'm trying to have power over women, but I'm not. I want to be the masculine man and create a safe space and financial and everything for a woman to exist in. So she gets to be a woman, even though I'm happy if she has competence and can make money if needed. And maybe if we don't have kids, then she makes money. But if we do have kids, I want her to raise them and imbue the values that we have to share it together. So what do I look for? Well, starting with veganism, that's part of my religion, my outlook. Then I want someone who wants no premarital intimacy, and that includes going on no dates, it includes not even kissing or anything, because to me my whole life is oriented around worshiping vulva, a woman's clitoris and labia. And so the only way I can do that in a way that is dignified and loving is to, okay, so it's just, it has to be explained. So let's say I'm ready for marriage, which I don't believe I am right now. But if I was, if somebody felt they were ready, this is the advice I'd give them. I'd say, approach this person, ask them, is one of your life goals to get married? Or are you looking for a husband? And by the way, the man has to approach the woman. The woman has to give the initial cues. I'll get to that, Jane. The woman has to establish initial cues. So she has to show off her body or act sexy or find a way to act interested in a nonverbal manner towards the man, because that way she's the one choosing, because women are more vulnerable, so they need to be the ones to drop the hints. And then when they give them, then the man can come over, say, and the man should only have one thing to say. He shouldn't be talking about, oh, hey, you look nice, or he shouldn't say like, oh, you're looking for a girlfriend, or oh, what's your name? No. Of course, the name might be relevant if she says yes to looking for when he asks, are you looking for a husband? And she says yes. Then he should say, I think, what do you mean by not interested in modesty? How am I not being modest? You mean by expecting, you think it's not modest for the woman to want to show off her body a little? Like, really, you're going to have to clarify that. So, okay, so when the woman says yes, she's interested in a husband, then the man should ask, hey, do you have any men in your life, like a father, uncle, brother? Because this is a way of the man who's interested in the woman honoring the men in her life. Because if they're going to get married, then inevitably he's going to have to deal with those men anyway. So he should develop, at least attempt to develop a rapport. And then he can talk. Okay, he can talk to those men. And then if those men are, friendly and they say, they vet him, then and maybe they don't approve, but at least he tried to offer, out of respect. But if they don't approve, then and she still likes, it's kind of tricky territory. But ultimately, for a marriage to work, it has to be the man and the woman have to decide that they like each other. And so the next step after all of that is that the man asked the woman, "Hey, let's talk more through email." Email is very different from dating. Dating is romantic. It's intimate. In fact, it's a way that people would convey to the public that they were interested in each other and that they were together. That's how you publicly. How else do you, on an average day? There's one thing, the wedding, but on an average everyday basis, how do you show that you're with someone? You have sex with them, and you go on public dates, and you appear together as a couple. Hey, Zayden. So you're wanting to make sure that you're sexually compatible, right? The way you do that is through honest fucking conversation, talking about private matters via the internet, which is a safe medium instead of a date where you could get distracted by hormones and everything. And so what you do is you ask each other questions like, what frequency of sex do you want? Or a woman and man might exchange nude photos, and it could show what the man's privates look like and what the woman's privates look like. And also she can show like what toys, like the size of the toys that she likes, and how relevant that is, or how necessary it is for the man's penis to be a certain size. But again, it's just as relevant, the size of the woman's internal vagina. And I would say when you find out about someone and you realize that you have other compatibilities, even if there isn't a perfect matchup, quote unquote, I would say that there's two modes of life. There's either trying to seek pleasure and be hedonistic, which all that does is lead to wanting more intense experiences, more drugs, more, stronger drugs, more sex, the next thing, more and more. Oh, I need a new car. Oh, I have these clothing. Now I need the next new clothing. Instead, we should be looking at things as, instead of seeking pleasure, we should be trying to please people that we care about. Now, this may be platonic. This may mean giving people massages or gifts, people we actually care about because they have the same values as ours. Or it could mean having sex with your spouse. And I think that makes sense. Unless there's any further questions or input, stuff that I might be missing, or maybe this is there's something that, okay, get into that point, then what? But I think I presented enough. Now I want to finish that light work session, unless anyone has any more comments. You want to imagine somebody just smiling in your head. The mind operates in imagery. So when people say they're praying for something, instead they should just be imagining it and acting like it's already theirs. If you watch self-help manifestation stuff on the internet, it talks about, you have to pretend to be the person before you can get it. So I would say 5 years, Jane. And because I wanted to be in the frequency of love, of self-love, of having sex with myself via masturbation, rather than having to be reliant on somebody else to get me off. And this is what turns women off. Women want a guy who can resist her body and is a principled man, and would not want to have sex with her until she was married to him and committed to, they had the same values. And so it's more of an intellectual thing. It's not a religious thing in the sense of, fear God, or fear going to hell, or fear public scrutiny, or social, what's the term, social ostracization. Yeah, right. So, and it's like when I masturbate, I use a what's called a Doc Johnson. It's a brand. It's a pocket pussy. It's called a signature stroker. I'm being specific because there's a lot of sex toys out there, and it's important for people to be tuned into the best, especially, after I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars experimenting. And so that's what I've found. And then using that, it's like I have sex with myself. And I can use the internet or glancing at women throughout the day who I find an appeal to. And all of this adds up to actually respecting women, not wanting to seduce them for premarital sex. See, here's the crazy thing, that what makes that one better. It's more realistic. The silicone and you got to look it up on the internet if you really want to know. It's called the Doc Johnson Signature Stroker Series, and it just feels fucking realistic. And I use it with olive oil, and then I also add a little water to it, so it just makes it really realistic. But yeah, if you guys, this is like a vibration thing. It's like, and women can sense it. That's why women get drawn to the bad boy archetype. That guy is a guy who's willing to say no to them, but that's only because he can have sex with another woman. So it's not really a legitimate description of a true alpha male, a true non-simp. Because a non-simp is somebody who, isn't interested in giving his energy. Because what guys don't realize is, what nobody realizes is two things. Is one, when women have sex with a man, they think that it'll persuade him to want to marry her, but actually it does the opposite. It makes him feel like he can keep having sex and not have to marry them. the whole point is the woman's supposed to be the gatekeeper of sex, but the reality is she's not able to unless she has a viable masculine, presence. Uh, and the whole society is failed because it's tried to force men and women to be together in co-ed schools and all work and all under the auspices of feminism and everything, all their work. And guess what that does? All that does is it makes more slaves, more taxpayers, more workers for the global elite, if you want to call them that. It may sound conspiratorial, but there are people who benefit more if women are also making an income, and then they can control people and make them all sheep and followers and have to make more money so that certain people can exist in higher, it's not even a higher status, or it's not even a higher, socioeconomic hierarchy or ladder. It's like, it's just, you have to, no matter how wealthy you are, you still, most of the people that are, your children, grandchildren, they still have to have real jobs, and they still have to exist in a society that, that's escapism. When you think money's going to allow you to buy whatever you want and escape the realities of life instead of facing them head on like I do. I face them head on, and that's the difference between me and most people. I think most people are simple-minded and they're hedonistic, and they just work hard enough so they can have, pleasure for themselves and their immediate family. That's tribalism. But I'm a unity consciousness guy. I'm about world peace, and that's why I'm committed to world peace before even pursuing creating a family and having a wife and having intimacy. I'm not going to be fucking enjoying life to that extent when there's people suffering around the world. No, I'm going to work to improve it. And why is this path better? Well, I feel like I'm a joyful person. And so this is where it gets a little into a gray area, because it may be hard to measure joy. Like, if I say I'm doing something but business-wise, and it reveals itself in that, hey, I'm actually earning so much a month, or my company's growing in, quote unquote, then that's more empirical data. But I'm saying that this makes me happier, and that it allows me to, it's hard to really fucking be able to listen to me and think that my concepts are legitimate unless you really get to know me and see how I operate and move, and how I'm always in an uplifted, and it's just being in a frequency of love, a frequency of abundance and joy and health and unity consciousness. I've surrendered myself to contributing to world peace, and that's, I don't see how you can be happy otherwise. Like, a lot of people, I think, may be happy because they're not intelligent, and so they just get happy off of the more simple enjoyments of life. And I'm not downplaying simple enjoyments of life, like having a decent job, raising a family, and going on a vacation. I'm not downplaying that, because that's all part of the human experience, and keeping the economy going and everything, and just existing as a civilized society and doing stuff for each other and consuming products and services between each other. That's all great, but we have a lot of great resources and stuff, and there's also some places in the world that don't have anything,
or they're being underserved, and there's disproportionate wealth and poverty. It's like people aren't. So I tying it around, like you'll hear public intellectuals like Ben Shapiro talk about how even though he kind of, I think, has been blindsided by the tribalism of the whole Israel thing, because he's Jewish. Just overall, like he'll say stuff like, the number one problem is people, seeking premarital intimacy, because it creates a distrust. It creates an environment where men can't trust other men because they're seducing their sisters and they're seducing their daughters. And you fucking ask, what's the number one ritual in religion, and what is the number one practice that is pragmatic and constructive for society? And it's the sustainable process of not trying to seduce people for premarital intimacy, but rather wanting to care about them and wanting to pardon me, wanting to have relationships that fucking last, marriages that last, that makes it, at least gives the impression that people know what they're doing and know what love is. Love is what happens when people who are mutually committed to a common objective come together. And love is also a commitment to an ideal. So it's like going through something and just wanting to create something that's meant to last. Like that's what it means to be made with love. If you make a high quality product or a good service, it's meant to really work. And that's what I'd like us to do, guys. And so, finishing up this light work session, so you visualize a brilliant white light just streaming down, and people, smiling, the light just shining through your car, shining through whatever challenge you're having. Maybe you're worried about a job you're working on. Blast all the tools, blast everything you use at that job, your computer, whatever. Blast your coworkers, imagine them smiling. The light streams down. You can do this activity when you're, say, driving or in line, or just to occupy time. And again, imagine that person you're attracted to. Or even if there's a person that you have seen and you're physically attracted to, maybe you could say that it doesn't have to be that specific person, but maybe that's your body type that you like. Maybe it could be somebody like them. So let's visualize that. Imagine that brilliant light shining down, and on somebody you dislike. Imagine that person smiling and the light shines down on them, and it's just a happy experience. I'm about to sign out, but it's been good being online here. Thanks for some commentary, Miss Jane. Be well. Check out shieldheart.org, and in order to do more of this, I'm going to need help. Like, help is useful in commenting. Help is useful in spreading the message, like sharing this video once it's published, or sharing another one of my videos. I also have a TikTok channel at Team Shieldheart. Those are very shareable videos. And if you feel like you want me to do more of this, then I can't be working all the time to earn even a basic living. Basic living is has its costs, even though I live in a pretty Spartan manner. But I'm committed to this path, and if you can find a way to join the path with me in some way, then let's do this. All right, aloha, guys. Take care, Miss Jane. Thanks for talking.